welcome to Black Economics TV. We have with us today Kemmy Lawson. Now, she is a very talented lady, knowledgeable in all things insurance, personal insurance, finance, commercial, whatever you're interested in, and mortgages. We all need properties, houses, flats. She'll be the lady for you. Talk to her, she will find a solution. Welcome, Kemmy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good, Dawn. And I must say, thank you for having me on here today. And thank you for the incredible work you're doing behind the scene, impact you're making. And I'm glad to be part of it. So thank you for having me on here.
Oh, you're very welcome. No, it's a pleasure to have you. Now, we met at a networking event a few weeks ago, and I was saying to my daughters that it was towards the end of the evening, as we were about to disappear and go home, that I came across Kemi, and we started chatting, and here we are today. We almost missed each other. We were in the same room for hours.
Yes, we
And we
were.
always miss, but I'm really pleased that we were able to talk, and we've been talking a few times since. And she has a really good story, and the way that she's trying to help people financially, I think is absolutely wonderful. So, Clemmy, over to you. Tell us what you do and why do you do it?
Yeah, thank you, Dawn. So what I say is I help people to protect what matters to them the most. And what I mean by that in talking about financial security. So I always say two things in life that are constant, and that is we got to pay taxes and debt. So what I mean by that is when life is running smoothly, the unexpected can happen at any time. So what I speak to people in advance is protecting their future so that they can protect tomorrow and face today. So protecting their life, protecting their source of income, their earnings, and their family's future so they can have peace of mind. So my area of expertise, so I'm an insurance specialist, and also as well, I help people to get onto that property ladder to guide them in making that life's important choices, whether it's their first home or they're looking to add more properties to their portfolio. So making what can feel overwhelming quite clear and achievable. So that's what I do. So insurance and mortgages.
Okay, so let's talk about insurance first. Now, tell us why you feel that this is so important.
Mm. So I'll share my story. I'll share the reason behind my why, because I'm that one person, and I'll just refer back to one of my late mentors, who's late Miles Monroe, who talked about the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but is life without a purpose. So I'm married, I've got four kids, and I think I was a stay-at-home mom for about 14 years. And I think during that time, once the kids were getting older, I was kind of trying to find out what my why was, that there was more to my life than just being a mother, a wife, and just doing the mundane things of life. And I recall one day, I think I came across this guy, is Jay Shetty. At the time, I didn't know him, but what he was saying just kind of like caught my attention. Just talking about trying to find out what your purpose in life is, or what in terms of like a career, you might have a hobby and you want to convert that like into a career. And I thought, oh, interesting. Or if you don't know what it is you've been called out to do, just speak to people that are close to you and find out how you have contributed to their lives. And they can tell you maybe this is what you're good at. So what I did, I reached out to five of my very good friends. And at the time, all of them came up with, Kemi likes to talk, she likes to help, she likes to counsel. So I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? So I thought, okay, be a nurse. I don't like hospital. I don't like blood. I can't be a midwife. So scrap that. Do I go talking to people? So I was just trying to kind of like find out what it was. And I wanted whatever I did to resonate with who I was as a person. I didn't just want it to be money. It had to be who I was. So a few months down the line, my husband and I were at a petrol station in the neck of our woods, and then we came across two of our friends who were there. And that evening, they were just coming from a local hospital, and my friend's husband was diagnosed with stage 3 stomach cancer. So from the time we met until like 6 months after that, because we were believing for his recovery, we prayed together. I'm a believer, and I just got that notification. I think it was that morning, saying that her husband passed away in front of her, and the three kids. So I went there in the evening, and she was surrounded by family and all that, and sat next to her. And that one question is what has propelled me into what I'm doing now. And that question was simply, by the way, did he have insurance? She didn't even need to say anything. It was just more the wailing she really tried was and I just sat there like confused. And I looked at her and I said to the lady, the auntie, and I said, Auntie, I don't mean any disrespect. But what has insurance got to do with someone dying? Do they pay people to die? And she was like, Oh, my dear, you have this insurance, you have that. So I thought, hmm. So when I went home, I said to my husband, I said, Babes, do we have insurance? And he was like, Well, talking Babylonian system or whatever. I said, No, I'm serious. How does this thing work? Your friend was very healthy and just like that. And he was like, Do you know what? I don't know. Speak to people. So I started talking to a lot of my friends, and they're saying they didn't have much to say about it. It's like, I think when you take out a mortgage, they kind of ask you, nobody could tell me anything. So the organization I'm with, we went out that evening and they had a stand, and it was just like mortgages, wealth, insurance, and everything. And Kemi went to the stand, and my friends are like, What are you doing? I said, No, I want to find out how this works. And I put my name down. Nobody else was interested. And they're like, What are you? I was like, No, I want to know. My husband was like, Yeah. So a lady walked into our door. That was well over 8 years ago, and sat down, spoke to me about the benefit. And I just realized I didn't know enough as well about financial protection. I was equally vulnerable,
Mm,
exposed like my friend. And I know it threw her into financial hardship. And she went through a very difficult time. Everybody contributed money, but then after a while, people move on with their lives, and you're just left with
yeah.
having to pick everything up, and with the little kids, and they almost lost their home and all of that. So when that lady came, we found out we didn't have anything. So we took all our protection need insurance in areas that mattered to us. And something resonated. Remember, I was like, Who is Kemi? And I just turned to the lady and I said, How can I do what you're doing? My husband sat there like, What are you doing? And I just said to the woman, Can you leave your details? I think Kemi's found her voice. Because
Mm,
it took me losing a friend, my friend's husband, for me to realize the importance of this. I want to go out there and have a conversation with everyone because I've done that for myself. And that was how my journey into financial services started. And then on top of that, then you're talking to people about being financially protected. And they're like, Oh, Kemi, I want to get a house. I want to get a mortgage. And what I had to do was I'd have to like kind of like pass it on to somebody who was qualified to talk in that. And I thought, I want to be a one-stop shop for my clients in terms of financial advice, giving holistic advice, not just getting them protected, but guiding and being part of that journey in them getting a house, quite rewarding and helping. And that's how I went into mortgages as well. And yeah, that's where I get
okay.
my kick from.
So you're saying the important thing is to be insured, have life insurance, critical illness insurance as well.
Yes,
And
yes.
you do income protection insurance?
Income protection. Because what I find is when you're talking to people, like everybody's like I always say, nobody's going to get out of here alive. We're all passing through. Everybody's going to go someday. But it's true, Dawn. And, and if people just talk about life insurance, but there's more to, there are different products out there. So life
Mm,
insurance, when you pass on, when you're no longer around, some people have financial dependents who might face a financial loss because they're not there. So that's loss of income because that breadwinner, that person is no longer there. So having a life cover is just a way of saying, even if I'm no longer around, that money can still solve a lot of problems because the bill don't stop. Life carries
I
on. So
know.
it's just making sure that they can still live that life that you have built together, paid bills. So you leave that, for family. And I just say it's so that you love them. I call it a love assurance. It's a way of saying, even though I'm not here, I still want you to have the best of life, the best of everything. And so I say to people that what you call as well, living debt benefit in the here and now. So, what are things that can impact us? And I say to people, what is your greatest asset? So, some people say, my car, my house. Oh, and there's not right or wrong, but your greatest asset that I say to people is that ability to earn an income. Because if you think about it, Don, your income is what determines the kind of lifestyle you have, whether you're going to have a luxurious lifestyle, whether it's a middle class lifestyle, whether it's charitable. So if man's working, money's working. So what are
Mm,
those things? And I say between the DOB and DOD, the date of birth and date of
mm,
death, what
mm.
happens in the middle is life happens. We call it
Okay.
a sad event, a sickness, an accident, a disability, or even death. We have no control over that. So, what happens if you find yourself in a situation whereby, due to medical condition or health reasons, you can no longer work? How do you maintain your lifestyle? How do you pay
Mm,
your bills? So, those kind of
mm,
things, you're not thinking life insurance ain't going to solve that. Is my income protected? Critical
mm.
illness. Someone's been diagnosed, and I have so many cases like that. Had a client about like 4 years ago, had a stroke at the age of 39. Every month, even up till now, he's getting £3,500 income. Mortgage was paid off
Wow.
because, yeah, so that means you can still live that life of significance, even though you've had, because you can't face there's what you call emotional trauma. You don't want to go through financial trauma. So when you have those things in place, then you can focus on your well-being, on getting better because your income, you don't want to go from being up there to down. Or go to
Mm,
like a goal fund or go to family because when you're up there you don't ever want to come down, so they're just
mm.
different level of protection. So what I do is speak to people, find out where they're at in their journey and looking at areas whereby they need to be protected, because insurance is not an investment, it is the bedrock to financial planning.
And there's also insurance for funeral planning as well, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Okay.
I would say, I mean, one of my friends passed away recently. We put her to rest. That was April 10. And then I was glad because she was my client who now became a very dear friend. And when her daughter called me and she was like, oh, first thing people are ringing me, did your mom have an insurance? I don't know anything about this. And she'd given me, your number. And I'm just like, I don't know what to do. So I went over, sat down with her, and her mom had funeral cover in place. So we're able
Mm,
to, fill out the form together to say you don't have to worry because, what I say to people is, even if you pass away, people you leave behind, you don't know if they're financially capable of being able. So
mm,
you want to take out that stress and you put things in place. And we were able to, put in a claim, which meant, taking care of the funeral cost and all of that. The burden wasn't on the family or wasn't on the daughter. So it's just to
mm.
get peace of mind.
Yeah, I've heard of some communities, our Asian communities, where they would take our insurance on the older members of the family. And then
Mm.
once that person dies, it's the influx of money that comes into the family. It sounds like a
Yes.
pretty good investment rather
Yeah.
than a protection.
Yeah, yes, yes. So, but what we do the funeral cover. So, yeah, which means that we do like up to a certain amount that takes care of the funeral cost and all of that. And then once people just ask the death certificate, the lump sum money is paid out, and you can use that towards the funeral planning and all of that. And
Yeah.
especially with our community as well, even though I've seen people where people pass on, people want to contribute. So they do like a fund and all of that. So that helps, but it's good. You can't rely on that. It's good to have your plan in place because I always say there are two types of people in this world. There are most people that take ownership of their financial plan, or some people that leave it to the hands of a third party. And we want to be like most people to kind of prepare for our future, know when something happens. So that gives us like, you know
Yeah.
what? Yeah.
Because if you look on GoFundMe, there's always people asking for funeral costs, you know. So in other words, the family hadn't prepared for that. And we
Yes.
don't want to be in that situation. Because the
Yes.
funerals are not cheap.
They're not cheap. I mean, you're looking
Yeah.
about maybe like about £10,000, like maybe like for like a funeral. But the thing is, but life goes on. The bills don't stop. So even after
Mm.
that, what happens? And people mean well, but they just have their own families as well. They have their financial commitments to deal with, not that they don't care. So at that point in time, it's a need. Everybody contributes, but then life goes on.
Okay, that's very interesting. So, are you helping others to get into the same line of business that you're in?
Yes, especially in the financial industry. And I don't mean it in a bad way. We don't have many people that look like myself.
Oh,
So, and
really?
yeah, we don't have. And when you think about it in terms of the African Caribbean community is about 1% that actually have cover insurance in place. Maybe it's true
1%? No way.
1%. I'm telling you, Don, and I think sometimes it might be through misrepresentation. People are not aware how it works, the benefits and all that. So the more people that we can reach. So I'm looking for people that are passionate, they want to help people. Some people could even be looking like for me, like I said, I've been finding out Kemmy, I didn't know this was the line of um work that I'll be doing now. So for me, I mean, it goes with what I believe, my band helping people and all that. And also as well, you're adding value to people and building lasting relationships. So there are people out there that are probably thinking, oh, I want to do what Kemi's doing. And I found when I'm talking to people, when I'm meeting with clients, I mean, I've had people that are now doing what I'm doing because we're like, oh my God, I can, I relate to your story because I'm thinking I don't know what I want to do. Or some people that are thinking I've been looking to do this line of work. This resonates, or they've done it before. They're looking for a way to get back as well. So I share that opportunity that yes, the more people, there's a huge gap out there. I can't reach everyone. So together, if I have more people, then we can reach a lot more people and get a lot more people protected.
Okay, so anyone who's interested in doing the line of work that Kemi is doing, you can contact her directly. That sounds good. But 1%, that's actually really
Yes.
shocking.
Yes.
Did this survey then? How do we know it's 1%?
I'll get you the facts, yeah, based on the facts that we have. And also as well, when I'm talking to a lot of people, what I find, especially in our community, Don, we would rather, when I'm talking to people, oh, do you know what? I'd rather something that will bring me money like investments, like properties and stuff like that. Even when I'm helping people in terms of like with mortgages and we talk about having that protected, people are looking into let me protect the mortar, let me protect the building. That's more important. That you have that conversation talking about, well, who is more important? Is it because the building is an asset and you see yourself as a liability? Is that why we're protecting, the building? Because who brings in the money? Let's think about it. Who brings in the money? You or the building? Then the penny drops like, think about that. Oh, how does this work?
Mm,
So
mm,
our focus is more on making money, on putting in investment things that will bring money back in the long term, but we're not thinking of protecting. It's like you have the goose that lays the golden eggs. So are
mm,
you protecting the goose or the golden eggs? Who is more
mm,
important? So I think
mm,
that's where it is within our community. And when I'm talking to people, it's just changing that narrative. And they're like, oh, Kemi, I never saw it that way. I just think
mm.
it's people just not understanding the benefits of being financially protected. That's what it is.
So are we talking about endowments here, where people will pay a little bit extra, so if anything happens to them, then the mortgage gets paid off?
Yeah, so it's an insurance. So you have like your mortgage. So you have different types of insurance. You have a life insurance if you have financial dependence or any dependent that will suffer an economic loss or financial loss if you were no longer around. But you're taking out a mortgage as well. So think about it. Maybe you're taking it out for like 20 years, 25 years. It's a loan at the end of the day because you don't own that property until it's fully paid off. And that's why
Mm,
you hear that, you have to keep up with your mortgage payment so your house does not get repossessed. But in that,
mm,
you've taken out that loan on your mortgage for about 20, 25 years. Can anything go wrong? Who knows? We
mm,
have no control over what happens. So, should that person die, what happens to the loan on the mortgage? So that's what you're protecting. So it's a life insurance, but it's tied to your mortgage. So what that
mm,
means is if that happens, that mortgage gets paid off. You're not passing that liability to your family. So,
mm,
and also as well, we're talking about, generational wealth. So that mortgage is clearly paid off. And the family or the children who inherit the property, they can leverage on that and then, build on that. So it's
yeah.
protecting the loan amount. So that's a mortgage insurance. And just that,
Okay,
yeah.
so people who are looking to get mortgages because they want to get on the ladder now, what kind of difficulties are people experiencing?
So what I always say, because when I started, it's funny, Don, because when I'm having conversations, I always say to people, be open-minded, and it's always good to get second opinion. Because I've spoken to people and the answers they've given to me, I'm kind of like, where did you get that? I met a woman about a couple of months ago, and she was like, oh, I was told I could never get a property in this country because I'm not a citizen. I was like, what? Where did you get, in terms of you getting a mortgage? Obviously, there are things, requirements, criteria for different lenders. But she'd been in this country for like 15, 20 years. And I said, what kind of like visa do you have? What is like your status? And everything she said kind of met. But because of the wrong information, she was like, oh, had I
Mm.
known? So she took that money she'd been building up and said, okay, I'll start investing in my country. But she was like, oh my God, I didn't know. And then about a month
Oh.
ago, I was talking to a professional who's a high earner, and he goes, I was told I can't get a mortgage because I have a child in private school. I was like, so we're able to sit down together, get a decision in principle, and within about 6 months, he's got a property. I was like, Kemi, if you hadn't. So what I say to people is, it's always good to have that conversation.
Have a
So
conversation with you.
having that conversation. So some people might have it more challenging, maybe because in terms of like their credit or things, everybody's situation is different. But it's always better to speak to a professional who can direct you or tell you what you need to work on. Maybe it's not the right time, but even no matter how bad, there's always that possibility you can get a mortgage regardless of your circumstance. So it might be like somebody that has maybe like bad credit. You might be susceptible to like maybe like higher interest rates. You might not have other lenders and things like that. But I would say it's worth having that conversation. And then we as professionals, we can kind of direct you because we know what each lender is looking for. And yeah, it's not something that cannot be achieved.
Okay, brilliant. Well, you sound like the kind of person that people should be talking to. Whatever the outcome, they should come to you and get some advice. So that's great. What's your earning power, Kemi? What's the maximum you can earn in a month or you have earned in a month?
I don't know if what I would say in terms of like, so how I am, I'm self-employed. I work for myself. So I'm not kind of like under like a salary, like at the end of the month. So what I would say, in terms of like five figures, and it's very good. So what I say is I feel that I'm blessed doing what I'm doing, helping people, adding value, and I'm being financially rewarded. So because we get like in terms of what like with insurance, it's purely commission based. And in terms of like mortgages, you charge like an advice fee within the network, what they've said. So I would say it's enough to give you flexibility, maintain your lifestyle. It's quite good.
Oh,
Yeah. So I say
fantastic. That's
it's a
fantastic.
blank check in terms of what you want to earn. You determine what you want to earn, and yeah, you have that flexibility and the unlimited earning potential. So that's what this gives you.
So if someone wants to work with you to help provide them with a mortgage, what's the fee for that?
If somebody wants to work, so in terms of for us, our fees range from £199 up to 1,250. So it
Okay.
depends on, yeah, on each case, the complexity and all of that. And then, yes, so each situation is different and all that. So when we have that conversation, then it's something I always disclose beforehand. This is what we'll be charging. Are you happy with that? And yes, so.
Okay, great. So, give me an idea of a situation in your life which required resilience, when you had a huge problem. Give us some ideas as to how you worked through that problem, just to encourage some of us who are going through stuff.
Yeah. So naturally I'm a positive person. I think I'm a positive person and I don't like I think I thrive more in the midst of challenges. So when somebody tells me you can't, then that gets me like, nobody tells me I can't, you know? So I'll give an example of kind of like my daughter. She's I call her my first lady, Karen, when she was in secondary school. So in terms of, she's a very smart girl, but sometimes some people, it takes time for them to be able to get to where others are. And I remember we sat down, me and my husband, we sat down with a teacher and she goes, Karen, I think for GCSEs, she's gonna do. There was a certain they kind of like boxed my daughter in terms of like whatever she was gonna get was not gonna be beyond a C. So she was gonna do the lower kind of like level, and she goes, so Karen, so that's what we would advise. I said, and I mentioned the lady's name. I said, no. Nobody's going to put my daughter in a box. I said we're going to put in the hard work, whatever we can do as parents to support her. We're going to do that. But I would rather she fail trying than not trying at all. I don't want doors to be closed. She was like, "But Mrs. Lawson, do you understand what this means?" I said, "I understand where you're coming from, but I think she's capable. Whatever it takes, if we have to do like extra lessons or whatever, my daughter is going to sit the normal exam like everybody else." And she looks
Mm.
like she wrote a note and she was like, "Oh my God." And then my daughter went to school the next day. And then she said to my daughter, "Oh my God, your mom was quite insistent. Don't, Karen, if you don't feel," and my daughter goes, if my, Mrs. X, if my mom says I can do it, then I'll do it. That's fine. If my mom said, so what did we do in terms of like, we did like extra lessons, but it was more in terms of telling my daughter who she was, like, stop looking at those limitations. That's what they're telling you, but you've got what it takes. You've got to put all your energy. You've got to. So I didn't focus on what they were saying. You can do this. We did lessons. I was driving everywhere and all of that. When the result came out, I remember I drove to school with my daughter, and that lady, when she was giving my daughter her result, she goes, "I want for Karen, you know what? You're one person I'm always going to talk about. You have done extremely well." So the
Wow.
subject matter was biology. They had English. My daughter had an A star. And all the
Wow.
subjects they thought she couldn't do. And I even remember before then, the headmaster called me and said, "Well, your child, whatever." I said, "No, my daughter went to university and did economics and came out with a first class. And every time now that's the first thing." And
Wow.
she was like, "Mom," she was like, "Oh my God, thank you." I said, "Don't let anybody tell you how high you can go or how, anybody puts a seed, you determine how far
Yeah.
you want to go, not what they tell you, it's what you believe." And that's how, with my life as well, in terms of challenges that I face. I remember one time back in the days, I was doing kind of like property lets. And I was doing like short let for this landlord. I was managing the property for him. And then we had like a gap. There was a void. I couldn't fill in we just didn't have any requests for like, short lets and things like that. And he'd already put it through to like an agent within the community, within that estate. So I got a call like, and he was like, "Kemmy, you've been very good, but it's all about business. It's all about the numbers." And he goes, "You're very lovely. I'd love to work with you, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that property back into long let." So it was with an agent before I took it off them and gave it to you to manage on a shorter let, but I'm going to give it back to them on a longer let. In my head, I'm thinking, if anybody, because I believe in excellence in what I do, I'm committed to everything that I do. And I said to myself, if we're going to part ways in business, let it be because, maybe I'm like, okay, this is not what I want to do. Or probably it's amicable, but not because I'm not doing what I was committed to do. I'm not doing like an excellent job. So I picked up the phone and I said to him, I said, "Why would you be putting this property back into long let?" He goes to the estate agent. He goes, "Kemi, because they do long-term lettings. That way I have constant flow of income because the short let, you have the void period." I was like, "I can do that." He goes, "Can you do that, Kemi?" I said, "I can do that." He goes, "Okay, let me see what you come up with, and then you'll be the one." And I'd never done long let before. And I just thought, oh my God, I've said I can do this. So I spoke to my friends and who were in the long let business, and they were like, "Oh, why don't you just speak to this? There are people that can find you tenants. They'll do the referencing and all that." Made a call, went to meet them. "We can do that for you." And we were able within a week. So I called the landlord. I said, "We've got you a tenant." He was like, "You've got the business." So I'm that kind of person. Is like, if you believe you can, yes, you can. If you believe you can, just looking for ways and then just keep going and telling yourself that I can. I mean, sometimes you do your best if it doesn't work out, but I'm like, I gave it my best. I gave it what I had. So that's the way I live my life, that all things are possible to him that believes.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, how do you market your business? How do you promote your business? How do people find you?
Yeah, in terms of like how I've promoted like in the last kind of like 8 years. So number one, referral. So like people
Okay.
are happy with your service, and then
Mm-hmm.
they kind of like they market you. You're kind of like they like your walking billboard. Now I'm on Vouch for, so that's like the Google for financial services. I have people that find me on there. Then
Oh,
I go to
wow.
like a lot of like I speak to communities. So I speak in churches, like people organize like awareness, financial events, come and talk and all that, speaking engagement, networking and things like that. So yeah, so just always is having that visibility and just being part of like local communities and supporting
Okay,
people, sponsoring events and stuff like that to talk about what I do and our services.
fantastic. How do you wind down, Kemmy? What's
Oh, I
your
love
hobbies
music.
or interests outside of work?
Uh, do you know, I love music. Do you know when I was younger, Dawn, what I wanted to be, I said, I wanted to be a singer and kind of like an actress, but I come from like a family of academia. My dad is a professor. Like, I'm gonna disown you. How dare you? So I've always loved music. So even when I'm home, so I go out with friends, so that's how I wind down. Even when I'm home, I'm just playing like music and then I read. I read a lot of books as well. I listen to a lot of motivational stuff and all that, and that's where I get my yeah. But I'm always music, reading. I'm going out with friends and spending time with family. That's how I unwind
Okay,
because I think it's key. You can't pour from an empty cup. That's what I say. So you got to keep
yeah,
refilling and having that balance, work life, family, and all of that. Yeah.
okay, okay. All right. So if people want to contact you, how do they contact you, Kemmy?
I'll share my details. So I've got my So I'm on LinkedIn as Kemmy Lawson. I don't have a lot of like social handles and things like that, but normally people can contact me. My telephone number, I'll pass the details on to you, Don, and then yeah, telephone number,
Yes, I'll put
email,
it
and
underneath the
yeah, and things like that. Yes,
yeah, telephone number and email address. And if you have a website that you want people to look at as well, happy to
yes,
share that. Because we all need to be looking out for what happens while we're here in this life, but also what happens afterwards with our loved ones. We want to provide for them. So
yes,
thank you very much for your time. Thank you for sharing what you do. And well done, I've got to say, and your concern is actually well needed. Are you putting your information in a book or booklet so that people can share in your knowledge and experience?
yeah. I am thinking of that. That's something I'm thinking, yeah, in the near future. Because quite a number of people said to me, Kemi, your story is quite inspiring. And I find that when I meet with people, they've gone through the journey where I'm at. And yeah, so a lot of families and lives that I've been able to impact through what I do. So I think that knowledge should be shared. So yeah, so look out for the space. Thank you again for having
Anytime.
me, Don. Yeah, thank you. All right, then. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.